Let me ask you
Now,
something,
remember what I
sweetheart.
told you.
And I want you to really
Always
sit with this
seasoned
question
with
before
love.
you answer it. How many years have you been working? 10?
1,
20?
2,
Maybe 30?
3.
And in all those years, every single paycheck, a little piece of your life, your actual, irreplaceable, non-refundable life, got quietly sliced off the top before you saw it, before you touched it, before you even had a chance to decide what to do with it. Gone, sitting in an account you barely understand, managed by people you've never met, invested in companies you've never heard of, following rules written by lobbyists you definitely never voted for. And you've been told
You honestly expect
your
me to
whole
believe that
life
nonsense?
by your HR department, by the government, by every financial commercial with a white-haired couple walking on a beach, that this is called being responsible. Honey,
You listen
that's
to
not
your auntie
responsibility.
now.
That's
I know
compliance.
what is best
and there's
for
a very
you.
big difference between the two. My name is
Welcome.
Auntie Pearl.
My name
I
is
am old.
Eleanor.
I am tired of watching
But
people work
please,
themselves
you
to
can
death
call me
for a
Auntie.
retirement that statistically, mathematically, and historically may never arrive the way they were promised. And today, I have the receipts. Now, before we go any further, I need to make something very clear. If you came here for someone to tell you that your 401k is fine, your pension is safe, and that if you just keep contributing your little percentage every month for
History.
40 years, everything is going to
Design.
work out beautifully. Baby, the door is right behind you. No hard feelings. Go back to your spreadsheet. But if you are willing, truly willing, to sit down and look at the actual numbers, the actual history, and the actual design of the system you've been trusting with your future, then stay right where
By
you are.
visualizing the data within
Because
this
what I'm
specific
about to show
quadrant,
you
we can
is not
isolate
a
the
conspiracy
anomalies.
theory.
Notice how the trend
is
line
accounting.
shifts right here.
And accounting doesn't lie, even when the people selling you the product do. We clear? Good. Let's get into it. Here is what nobody explained to you on your first day of work. The retirement system as it currently exists in most countries, and specifically
Disgusting.
the employer-sponsored,
Remove it. Get it
market-dependent,
off me.
individual account model, was not designed primarily for your benefit. It was designed primarily to solve a problem that corporations had in the 1970s and 1980s. Let me explain. Before the 1980s, the dominant model for retirement in large companies was called a defined benefit pension. The company promised you a specific, predictable monthly income for life after you retired. The company bore the investment risk. The company had to make sure the money was there. The company was on the hook. And corporations hated it because it was expensive, it was unpredictable, and it meant that workers had real power.
Well, now,
Because that guaranteed check kept coming,
what
whether
exactly
the
do
stock
we
market
have
went
here?
up or down.
This can't be right.
Then came a tiny little section of the United States tax code. Section 401, subsection K, introduced in 1978. And an obscure benefits consultant named Ted Benna figured out in 1980 that this obscure tax
Too
provision
much.
could be used to
I
create a
can't
new
hold
kind
it.
of retirement
Oh.
account.
Oh,
One where the employee puts in the money.
responsibility.
The employee bears the investment
This
risk.
is perfect.
The employee makes the decisions. And the employee is entirely responsible for whether there's enough money at the end. The corporations looked at this and said, "Oh, this is perfect." Within 20 years, defined benefit pensions were nearly extinct in the private sector. Companies shifted billions of dollars of liability off their books and onto yours. They called it empowerment. They called it ownership. They called it putting you in control of your financial future. What they actually did, Corazon, was hand you the wheel of a car with no headlights and
All
tell you to drive at
yours.
night. And the financial industry, the mutual fund managers, the brokerage firms,
Just take it.
the financial advisors,
You need to pay attention.
they saw this ocean of money flowing into individual accounts, and they built an entire empire on top of it.
All
An
right,
empire
now
funded by
watch
your fees.
closely how
That is the
these
system you
numbers
have been
add
faithfully
up.
contributing to.
This is
That is who
very
you have been
important.
saving money for. Now here come the receipts. And I want you to pay attention, because this is where most videos either get vague or get boring. I am going to do
In
neither.
2022,
I am
the
going
plan
to do
began.
math.
In
The average American
2024,
worker
we
who has
launched the
access to a
service.
401k contributes somewhere between 6% and 7% of their salary. Let's use a round number and say you make $60,000 a year. That is $5,000 a year
this is what
going
they
into
show
your
you.
retirement account. About $416 a month. Let's say you start at 25, you retire at 65, 40 years of contributions. Now the financial industry will show you a beautiful chart
You see
where
that?
that money grows at an average of 7% per
$1.06
year.
million.
Because historically,
all
the
yours.
stock market has returned
Just
about
take
7% annually when you adjust for inflation.
Oh, yeah.
And on
You
paper,
know exactly what's
after
coming
40
next.
years, that $5,000 per year becomes approximately $1.06 million. They show you that number in big letters. They put it on the billboard. They make the couple on the beach smile a little wider. What they do not put on the billboard
Doesn't sound like
are the fees.
much.
The average expense ratio,
Let me show.
the annual fee
Let me
charged
show
by the
you.
mutual funds inside most 401k plans is somewhere between 0.5% and 1.5% per year. Doesn't sound like much, does it? 0.5%. What's 0.5%
here.
between friends? Let me show you what 0.5%
This other
actually
number
costs
here.
you over 40 years.
They're not
If your
the same,
account
are
grows
they?
at 7% and you pay 1% in fees annually, your effective return drops to 6%. On a 40-year horizon, with $5,000 annual contributions, you end up with approximately $820,000 instead of $1.06 million.
And Trini's
The
story.
difference? $240,000
And that's the conservative
gone. Not to your
scenario.
retirement, to fund managers who did nothing except exist between you and your money. And that's the conservative scenario. In actively managed funds, the ones that many default 401k plans steer you toward, fees can be 1.5% to 2% or higher. At 2%
You
fees
go.
on a 7% gross return,
You
your
think you can
effective
get away
return
with
is
this?
5%. Over
I don't
40
think
years, you
so.
end up with around $634,000. That is $426,000 that left your account in fees. That is more than 8 years of your own contributions just evaporated. But wait, sweetheart, we're not done yet. Now let's talk about what that money actually means
And
in real
before
life.
taxes.
Because $634,000
H.
sounds like a lot
Hmm.
until you start
H.
doing the arithmetic on how long it has to last. The standard rule of thumb that financial planners use is called the 4% rule. You take 4% of your nest egg per year, and that's what you can safely spend without
pleasure
running out
that
of
you
money
enter
over a
your soul
30-year
morning.
retirement. 4% of $634,000 is $25,360 per year. That is $2,100 per month. Before taxes
Food.
on your withdrawals, by the way.
Food.
Because yes, you pay
Transportation.
taxes when you take the money out of a traditional 401k.
Utilities.
$1,113 a month.
If everything
After 40 years of
goes
work.
right.
After 4 decades of giving up a portion of every single paycheck. After trusting the system completely and playing by all the rules. The median monthly rent in the United States is now over $1,500. We haven't talked about healthcare, which for a retired person averages well over $500 a month in premiums alone, not counting out-of-pocket costs. We haven't talked about food, transportation, utilities, or the simple human desire to occasionally do something that brings you joy. And this is if everything goes right. This is if the market doesn't crash right before you retire, which is a phenomenon so well documented it has a name. Sequence of returns risk. If the
Now,
market drops
back to your
30% in the first 2 years of your
Yes, sir.
retirement, and you're drawing down your account, you can wipe out decades of growth in a way that
Let
is
me
almost
explain
mathematically impossible to
How
recover
this is
from.
sold to you.
Now let me convert this into something that hits even harder. Because numbers on a screen
Tax
aren't,
advantaged.
but time is something that every single one of you understands.
Did
in your life.
IS a real
At
advantage?
$60,000 a year, your time is worth approximately $28.85 per hour. Every hour you work, that is what your employer has agreed your life is worth. The $240,000 that disappeared in fees in the conservative scenario, that is 8,118 hours of your life. That is 347 full days.
Look at
almost
them
an
flow.
entire year of your
Such
existence,
sweet currency,
measured in
endless
the hours you
supply,
traded for money,
and all for us.
quietly
Set it
drained
and
out of your
forget it.
account in increments too
Oh.
small to see on any individual statement. The
what did I just set?
$426,000 lost in the higher fee scenario. That is 14,774 hours. That is 1,748 8-hour workdays. That is more than 7 years of your working life, honey. 7 years. Gone.
No.
To people who sent you a
Passive
quarterly
is
statement and called it a
absolutely
service.
not the
And not
word.
one person in that HR
Not at all.
orientation sat you down and explained this. They showed
Excellent.
you a pamphlet. They told you to
Disengagement
pick a
is
fund.
complete.
They said the company would
Yeah.
match up to 3%. And they sent you back
I
to your
see.
desk.
Let me take a look at this
Now
part
let's
right
talk
here.
about how this is sold to you. Because this system does
There
not
it is, the
survive
hidden
without a very
clause.
sophisticated marketing operation that makes you feel like participating is wisdom and questioning it is recklessness. The magic
And
phrase they
that's
use
because
is
thinking
tax
is
advantage.
uncomfortable.
And it is a real
Oh,
advantage.
I see. Exactly.
I am not going to lie to you.
Customer
Putting
retention.
pre-tax money into a 401k
It's
does
a
reduce
perfectly
your taxable
legitimate
income today.
business objective.
That is a genuine benefit. But notice how that benefit, the tax break, goes directly to the worker.
I didn't come here to
while
make
the
you feel
fees,
bad.
the cost, also go directly to the
All
worker.
right.
The company gets a tax
Let's break
deduction
this
for their
down
matching
into 3
contribution if they
easy
make one.
steps.
The fund manager gets a management fee whether your
Body
account
every-
goes up or down.
section
The brokerage gets a commission. You get a tax break that is smaller than the fees you pay over a lifetime.
Expense ratios.
And the risk
What
you
is this?
carry entirely on your own.
Wait, it's right
They
here.
have also
the
sold
data.
you on the idea
Yes,
that
this
is
is it.
passive. That you just set it and forget it, and the market does the work. And there is some truth to long-term market investing as a strategy.
You gotta be honest with yourself,
I am not
baby.
here to tell you the stock
Look,
market is fake.
look at this.
But passive
Now make it hurt a
is
little.
not a word that should apply to 40 years
Step
of your
2.
financial future. The passivity
Not
they're selling you is
$1
not peace of mind. It is
more.
disengagement.
Remember that.
And disengaged people do not notice fees. They do not comparison shop. They do not question the default fund selection. They do
Don't
not
do
realize
it.
that many 401k plans have terrible investment options.
Leave it.
Specifically because the company negotiated
Walk
with
away.
fund providers who offered kickbacks. Not the best
Oh,
products
look
for
at you
employees.
go. What are you doing?
The genius of this
Nothing.
system
Not
is that it
anymore.
turned your own future
Understand
into
what you
something you were
own
supposed to
first.
trust to strangers and not think too hard about.
Unknown.
Because thinking too
first.
hard about it is uncomfortable.
Understand what you
And
own.
discomfort is bad for customer retention.
What you
So what do you
own
actually do?
first.
Because I did not come here just to make you feel bad, Coruscant. I came here to give you something you can use.
Understand what
Here is
you
your battle
own
plan.
first.
3 steps.
Stand
None of them are easy. All of them are worth it. Step
what
1.
you own.
Learn your actual
first.
fees today. Not tomorrow.
Step
Today.
3.
Log into your retirement account. Find your fund
Hi.
holdings and look up the expense ratio
Step
for every single
3.
fund you own. Write them down. Add them up. Then go to a compound interest calculator.
Step
There are free ones
3.
everywhere online. And
Oh.
calculate what those fees cost you over your remaining working years. Make the number real. Make it hurt a little, because you cannot fight an enemy you refuse to look at. Step 2. If your employer offers a match, contribute enough to get the full match, and not a single dollar more, until you have done step 1.
With Vanguard,
you
Fidelity, and
understand
Schwab,
what
the
you
returns
own.
are substantial. And the fees?
That match is
just a
part of your
tiny
compensation.
0.03%.
Leaving it on the table is leaving your own salary behind. But contributing beyond the match into bad funds with high fees may cost you more than it earns you in the long run. You need to know what you're dealing with before you just keep shoveling money into a hole. Step 3.
You see this
Open a
full
separate
plate?
investment account.
That's yours.
A Roth IRA
And this?
if you're eligible. Or a
Someone
standard
leaving your
brokerage
plate
account.
alone.
And learn to invest directly in low-cost
No,
index funds.
this is not complicated
The
at
expense
all.
ratio on
It's
a basic
much simpler
S&P
than they
500
told you.
index fund from Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab
You're strong.
is between
You're stronger than they
0.03%
I know
and
now.
0.04% per year. Not 1%.
Steadily,
Not
legally,
1.5%.
incrementally.
0.03%. That is the difference between someone taking a bite of your retirement every year and someone leaving your plate alone. This is not complicated investing.
Thank
This
you
is
for
not
this
stock
responsible
picking.
system.
This is simply choosing the version of the same basic strategy that doesn't have a middleman helping himself to a decade of your life. Here is the thing they never want you to connect, sweetheart. The retirement system is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. It is transferring wealth from millions of individual workers, steadily, legally, incrementally, into the accounts of asset
You
management
deserve
companies.
clarity.
And it does this with your full participation and your sincere gratitude, because you have been told that this is what responsible adults do. Knowing this is not cynicism. Knowing this
Go check
is
those
the beginning
fees.
of actual financial literacy. The difference between someone who is financially free and someone who works until they collapse is not intelligence. It is not discipline.
You better subscribe.
It is information.
I'm not going to ask you twice.
Specifically, it is the information that the people selling you the product have a profound financial interest in keeping vague. You deserve clarity. You deserve to retire with dignity. You deserve to understand exactly where every dollar of your working life is going and why. Descanso es existencia, querida. Rest is resistance.
You
And so
deserve
is knowing the
clarity.
truth about who has been sitting at your table all these years, eating your food,
Descanso
and calling themselves
é
your friend. Go
resistência.
check those fees. Go do that math. And then come back and tell me what you found. Because I would
Go
very
check
much like
those
to know how
fees.
many hours of your life have been sitting quietly in someone else's pocket. If this video made you think, if it made you angry, if it made you pull up your retirement account for the first time in 2 years,
You better
then do two
subscribe.
things for me.
I'm not going to ask you
Subscribe.
twice.
Because I have more receipts where these came from. And leave me a comment below. What did you find when you looked at your fees? What's your number? I'll be reading. I always do. Take care of yourself. The system certainly isn't going to.